And we are not live on Instagram. Let me see if I can figure this out. Or here you go. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, waiting to go live on Instagram. And here we go, as it's checking the connection. We are live on Instagram as well. Thanks, Elisa, for the help. All right, season 12 debut, guys. We're going to be taking your questions here coming up, so send them in. Comment, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Season 12 debut, year 12 debut. Obviously, super excited to be here. Never thought we'd last a year, let alone 12, and it's because of you guys. So really appreciate the opportunity and the support. It's why we're here. Have a real good season on tap. So first few episodes, the first one debuting this week's Ice Cube. We spent a couple days with him in Vegas, and obviously fascinating guy. Lived kind of multiple lives in one, from his music career to his acting career to now what he's doing on the entrepreneurship front with launching the Big Three basketball leagues. So those clips are now live digitally. The full episode airs this weekend on TV. Again, taking your questions here momentarily. Week 2, we have new Pro Football Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson. We were with him in Canton, also at his house outside of Detroit. And, what's fascinating to me about Calvin is not less his induction to the Football Hall of Fame and more this cannabis business that he's started, and how he's encouraging NFL players who would normally take opioids for injuries to instead use cannabis. We have DJ Steve Aoki after that. Arguably the world's best DJ, makes tens of millions of dollars a year, traveling the globe 300 plus days a year, doing shows. And the reason why he believes at 43 years old, he's still able to do it, that demanding of a schedule, is this health and wellness regimen he puts himself through. So that coming up, as well as, Sir Richard Branson. So should have a good, handful of episodes to launch the season, and we're kind of grinding away, booking more guests here, coming up. A couple quick notes I wanted to make before getting into your questions. First, per kind of feedback we've gotten from you guys, we are launching and have just launched channel memberships on YouTube. We'll be launching it soon on Facebook, sorting through some technical difficulties on Facebook right now, but only place you can go to get access to our full catalog of episodes over 12 seasons of the show. It's the one place you can go to ask questions to our upcoming guests, get a sneak peek of content and exclusive access. So $4.99 a month. We're again starting this per your guys' feedback. It doesn't take anything away from all the content we're already putting out on YouTube, Facebook, through our show on TV. It's just kind of additive to what we're already doing. Want to read this? The ways to join: join button under any video or on our channel homepage. You can click the $ in the chat right now. You can click the link in the pinned comment right below me. So we're trying it out per your feedback. And so we'll be asking questions from, channel members tonight, maybe giving some special shout outs as well. Last couple notes before taking your questions. In addition to watching, clips on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram that we put out, remember the full episode airs weekly on TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox stations around the U.S., regional sports television networks around the U.S., ESPN internationally in Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, Caribbean, South America, BT Sport in the UK and Ireland, and TSN in Canada. You can also catch us in on video screens in taxis and the long form uncut interviews on our podcast as well. So grahambensinger.com for airing times in your region. And, that's where we're at. Last two notes, I promise, and then we'll get to questions. Again, our race to 1 million subscribers on YouTube that we brought up before, help us get there. And we're going to be selecting someone to tag along if you want on one of our upcoming tapings. So, got a little ways to go, but we're hoping to get there by the end of season 12. Also, as we launch the new season, a big thanks to our sponsors. We have Chase, AT&T, Frito-Lay, Baccarat, and Toyota. So have, really fortunate to have them on board and supporting our show. Got the Baccarat glasses right here. And without further ado, wanted to get to your questions. And we have Elisa and Brian at the other end of the office looking into them. Guys, what do we have first?
Hey, Graham. Hi, everybody. So first up, I gotta go to Stony Juan Kenobi on YouTube. He threw us up that super chat. He says, Salty Army is Legion, hashtag Graham rocks. Have you ever been a hashtag before?
Have
you ever been a hashtag before?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, we'll get you your own hashtag. I think Graham rocks works pretty well. Over on Facebook, Mario Russo says, what was your most memorable interview?
Oh, man. Elisa always gets on me when I say the same people. So I'm going to rattle off a number of people for, different reasons. First, I really loved the Steve Aoki one we just recently did. We spent the day with him at his home in Vegas, completely self-made guy. His dad was the founder of Benihana, yet didn't financially support Steve and took a career path that, his parents probably understandably initially discouraged in music and, living on couches for a while and kind of building this empire that he's built. So that was personally really exciting to me. Actually, Dan Bilzerian, who we previously taped an episode with, connected me to Steve, and that's how we were able to make that happen. But beyond that, Dak Prescott obviously was really interesting last year that we did in opening up about depression, as did Kevin Love this past season as well. I think those were personally kind of powerful for me because those came at the height of COVID when a lot of people have been struggling during the pandemic. And one of the things that I enjoy about the show is, the goal with these episodes is humanizing these larger than life figures. And while, you or I might not know how to, throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball or, act on the big screen, you can identify with the loss of a loved one or, going through personal challenges. And when you have one of these larger than life figures similarly explaining what they went through and how they've gone about getting through it, we'll get messages from people saying, wow, I had no idea this person was going through that. That really, resonated with me and kind of, put a smile on my face knowing if they can do it, I can too. So, stuff like that. But, then of course the Tom Hanks and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and the, Richard Bransons and the, Lewis Hamiltons and Steph Currys of the world. There are just a lot of folks we've had the opportunity to sit down with that, it's a treat. And sorry for rambling, Elisa. I feel like each episode of the show is a once in a lifetime experience, and we get the opportunity to do that week in and week out. So feel super lucky to have the chance to do it.
I didn't think that was too rambly. I have had a couple of questions in the chat about how to sign up for the contest, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that there's no sign up. You just have to be a subscriber. But if you want a better chance to win, make sure that you help us get to 1 million subscribers. That's the easiest way to say that you have signed up, is make sure everybody knows you love that content. On YouTube, we have a great question from Ozen Vulcan. He says, Graham, how do you get absolutely the hottest interviews out there? What's your secret?
I wish I had a secret. As I mentioned before, I probably walk a fine line between being persistent and obnoxious. I was told by our PR and digital manager, Brian, a little earlier, not to use the word harassment. So I won't say that anymore. But no, in all seriousness, I'm conscious of our place in all of this, which is, we're pursuing A-list talent, and they don't need the type of exposure that we bring because, Tom Hanks or Lewis Hamilton or Lindsey Vonn or whoever, that they can get that sort of media attention from anybody. So oftentimes it takes months. Sometimes we've had to take as long as 5+ years to get the booking because, not only we aren't asking, I should say, for 5, 10, 15 minutes. We're asking for a few hours or a few days, depending on who it is we're profiling. So it ends up being a lot of conversations with the rep or the person directly as part of the lead up to actually securing the booking. So I wish there was any sort of magic that I had in this, but it really is just being persistent, letting them know you're there, and kind of continuing the ongoing dialogue for as long as it might take.
So we now know it takes you a while to book an interview sometimes, but John Doyle over on Facebook, he wants to know, how long do you prepare for an interview?
How long do I prepare for an interview? Oh, man. Well, first, it depends on who we're taping and how far out the booking happens. Sometimes we'll book people months and months in advance. Other times it's only a few weeks before, depending on, who it is we're profiling and what the timing is that makes the most sense to feature them. In other words, if we get access to, we confirm a booking a few weeks out, even if we could get them a few months out, perhaps they have a fight that makes sense for us to feature them sooner. So we kind of will compress as needed the prep time for somebody. Having said that, we probably put 100 hours of research into each interview preceding the sit down. As I've said before, between myself, the producers, the researcher, I will read, watch, listen to every significant piece that has ever been done on the person we're profiling, in addition to efforting calls with a few people close to whoever it is we're interviewing ahead of the actual sit down.
That sounds like a lot of reading. Over on YouTube, I'm gonna.
I actually, like, that's one of the pieces of this role and the show that I most enjoy, is the opportunity to take a deep dive into uber successful people and learn about their path to success and how they got to where they are. And, you want to come to the interview with questions and stories that they haven't been asked about a million times before, because especially when dealing with A-list talent, they've done lots of interviews. So you want to do whatever you can to keep them engaged, especially if you're lucky enough to have the amount of time with them that we strive to get.
So,
and again, take your questions, send them on in Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Season 12 debut is kicking off this week with Ice Cube, followed by Calvin Johnson, Steve Aoki, etc. So, appreciate all the support, guys. It really means a lot to us here.
All right, this is a rapid fire one. I'm not going to give you very long to answer this. WD Harris on YouTube says, do you wear a Speedo?
No. I did 9th grade water polo, and that's the extent of my time ever doing that. We did tape an episode with Ryan Lochte a year ago, and I think they thought it would be funny for me to be in out of shape Graham to be in a
We
Speedo
did.
next to Olympian Ryan, and I politely declined that very kind invitation.
It would have been great. On to
Yeah, hilarious.
kind of a dual question I'm going to pull from both Instagram and YouTube here. On Instagram, Davis Reyna says, "Who's the best golfer you've ever interviewed?" And then on YouTube, The Berg Show says, "Could you interview John Daly again?" So let's talk a little golf.
It's funny. I get more comments about the taping we did with John Daly than just about any interview we've ever done. And I know some of the golf Instagram accounts will occasionally post clips from the Daly interview. He was a blast. I think at some point there's interest in revisiting that conversation and spending time with him again because of some of the health challenges he's currently going through. So perhaps at the appropriate time we'll do that. In terms of best golfer we've ever talked to, we've talked to all of the big three. I sat down with Arnold Palmer in Latrobe probably a year-ish before he passed away. Such a treat. Toured with him some of his memorabilia, as well as his longtime assistant Doc gave us a tour of the property. So cool to sit down with Arnie. We spent 3 days over 4 cities with Jack Nicklaus, taping in episodes, flying with him on his private jet from Dallas to Santa Barbara to LA to Cabo on a business trip he was going on. And then Gary Player, we were with him at his company headquarters in South Carolina for an episode taping, as well as sat down with him shortly after receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom at the White House. So all of those are on our YouTube channel and Facebook, as well as the full episodes are on channel memberships on YouTube as well. So yeah, those have all been a blast, and we're trying to get some of the more current golfers as well. So hopefully we'll, get working on that.
All right. So Anoop Singh, 1982, asks, "Have you ever applied any lessons from your interviews into your daily life?"
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, I pinch myself all the time that we have the opportunity to sit down with, folks like this. I mean, gosh, I look at all the successful entrepreneurs we've talked to, from, billionaire John DeJory of, Paul Mitchell Hair Care Systems and Patron Tequila, to Arthur Blank, the Falcons owner and Home Depot co-founder, to Bernie Ecclestone, the, former Formula One chief, etc. All, whether it's in business or these athletes who have had a ton of success, here I am, nobody, sitting across from these super high performing, successful people, just asking them questions about their life and them, revealing in sometimes the most intimate of details. So you walk away from those conversations, or at least I do, always super motivated, thinking, if this person, who in some cases literally came from nothing, can accomplish all of this, why can't I? And so that's, again, one of the things I really enjoy about these conversations is, humanizing these larger than life figures. So I absolutely try and incorporate, what we learn in these conversations into everyday life, because I aspire to have a lot of success someday as well.
That's nice. Over on Facebook, Mike Fuchs, I hope I'm saying that right, he says, "Apologies for joining late." No problem, Mike. We were a little late too.
Hey, Mike.
He says, "I love listening to your interviews each morning as I eat breakfast. Over the years, what interesting nuggets did you learn about one of your interviewees that made you say, oh, wow, what surprised you?"
Okay, here's one for you. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And again, we spent a couple days with him in Hong Kong pre-pandemic taping an episode. One of the things that most amazed me about him, aside from the fact that here's a kid who grew up scrawny in Austria, not speaking English, who went on to, become the world's best bodybuilder, the world's leading action star, then the governor of the biggest state in the country, and marrying a Kennedy, like the ultimate success story. He made his first million in real estate, not in acting, as one would have thought. He just used some of the early funds he made to invest in real estate, and decided to do that based on his own self education and just, betting that it would work out, and it did. So yeah, that's just kind of amazed me that somebody who you thought made, most of their early money from Hollywood actually first made it big in real estate.
Back over on Facebook, Mario says, have you ever interviewed someone and had them walk out?
Yeah, I would say actually two people that I can think of off the top of my head. One, Jim Brown, who I've sat down with on a few occasions before at his home in the Hollywood Hills, as well as in Cleveland. Jim, who's I think in his mid 80s now, walks with a cane, but can still kick my 10 times over. As I've said before, super smart guy. In addition to being arguably the greatest football player ever to live, is one of the most socially significant athletes of the past century. And he's quick to tell you if you ask a dumb question or what he perceives as a dumb question. And so you're always on edge going into a conversation with him. But I asked about some of his prior criminal charges, had a colorful life, but has done a ton of good in his life and then some. But he was not feeling it. And in fairness to him, I didn't ask it with the right tonality, didn't lead into it the right way. And so I put him on the spot, which is something you really try to avoid, because the best way to get somebody to open up is to make them comfortable, which I did not. And he was hacked off, rightfully so, got up and didn't come back. Now, I've since been around him, and we have a fine relationship. But yeah, that was one that I learned a lot from, because I handled it poorly, and it was completely my fault. George Foreman was another one who, didn't ask him anything that put him on the spot, but he thought I had my facts wrong with a question, and just, I think, was having a bad day and got annoyed and got up. But then he actually later came back, and it was fine. But every once in a while you catch somebody who woke up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever. That's certainly the exception, as opposed to the norm. But everybody's on their best behavior for the most part when we do a taping. Is it's in their best interest to do so, because then everybody has a good look. So yeah.
I'm going to keep it on Facebook because I think this is a super interesting question. And I've wondered it myself. Tim Rumler asks, have you ever interviewed someone who dramatically changed your social, political, or personal view of a topic?
I don't think so. Nothing that immediately comes to mind. However, I would say that, one of the things, among others, that I really enjoy about this show is having the opportunity to travel the globe and feature people in their respective environments. So, we've been all over, from Russia to China to the Middle East to New Zealand to Congo to the Philippines to Alaska to you name it. And having the opportunity to see different cultures, I think, has given me more appreciation for just, how lucky I am to, be born in America and be afforded some of the opportunities that, I've had in life, both from, my parents and all of that. So, having the chance to see the world really gives you an appreciation for, how lucky we have it here. So less anything that somebody specifically said and just more what we've had the chance to experience through the show.
So on that kind of experience front, I have a few questions about what your favorite place to visit is and what's the furthest you've ever traveled for an interview.
Favorite place to visit, hands down, is New Zealand. No question. Nothing is even a close second. I remember the first time we went there was in 2011, shortly after Tiger fired his longtime caddy, Steve Williams, kind of at the height of Tiger's scandal. And Steve gave me his first interview after the firings. And so I pitched doing it in New Zealand because I thought that would make him see, how important this taping was to us if we were going to travel from the U.S. to the other end of the world for this taping. And we went to Auckland. It was around Halloween time, I remember, and I had a few days to kill before needing to be back in the States after the episode taping, because it was the final taping of that season of the show. So, had some flex time, and I went to Queenstown, which was the south point of the southern island. I remember getting off the plane there, and it was just stunningly beautiful. Looks like something you'd see out of a movie. The backdrop just looked fake. And so ever since then, I occasionally spent time there in New Zealand, hand down my favorite place. Farthest we've ever traveled for an interview, I would probably say India for Virat Kohli, who's arguably the world's best cricketer. Arguably the most famous person in India, a country with almost 1.4 billion people, more than 4 times the size of the U.S., and is almost a prisoner in his own home because of his popularity there. And so I had very little knowledge of Virat before we booked that taping, but fascinating guy, fascinating story, and was well worth, again, traveling to the other end of the world to spend a little bit of time with him.
Great. So my next question is from Chris Thompson over on Facebook. He says, thanks for all the content.
Hey, Chris.
And he says, I'm just curious as to how you choose an interview or even pursue someone to be interviewed.
Sure. There's really no, consistent plan or rhyme or reason behind it. We just meet once a week with our team, and we pitch names, talk about different folks that we're pursuing. And there's always, the list of who you want, then the list of folks that are willing to do it, and where those intersect, or who we book. We're regularly going after all the big names. Seldom do people just flat out say no anymore, but oftentimes it's not right now. Let's reconnect in 6 months or a year. And so we have a lot of requests in the works at any one time, and it's a process.
On Facebook, Tracy Toei says, I recently found you and enjoy your style and how people respond to your genuine nature and curiosity. All I've seen so far has been with some really amazing men. What was one of the most interesting women you've spoken with?
Sure. And that's an ongoing source of frustration for me. We have for sure featured many more men for episodes of the show than women. It's not because of a lack of desire or lack of effort on our end, we just haven't been able to book as many females for whatever reason for episodes. But some of the women that we've profiled that I've really enjoyed talking to. We notably taped an episode with Annika Sorenstam. We were with her at the White House when she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom the day after the Capitol breach, as well as at her home in Florida. We were with Danica Patrick at her vineyard in Napa, Lindsey Vonn, in Park City, where she bought a new house about a year ago, and then Maya Gabera in Portugal, small town called Nazaré, which is where they have the biggest waves in the world, and she's the world's best female big wave surfer. So those are a few clips on Facebook, as well as all of the clips on YouTube, and full episodes of those are on YouTube channel memberships as well. So those are a few. Also, I should mention, if you guys have guest suggestions, we love them. And there are a few actually that we're currently working on just based on messages that you guys have sent in. So would welcome the guest suggestions. We talk about them each week when we get them in. You can email them to me at graham@grahambensinger.com, or just submit them in these comments and we'll take note of them. But certainly welcome guest suggestions here as we kick off season 12. So we typically, just so you guys know, we tape episodes generally from July through the end of March each year for a season, and then they air September through August. So we are in the first couple months here of taping new episodes for season 12, year 12 of the show, as we kick off this week with Ice Cube.
All right, can I answer a question real quick on YouTube?
Sure.
I'm just jumping in. I'm taking over. Jonathan Moran says, should I make tacos or burritos? And Jonathan, it's always tacos. Always tacos. So a couple of kind of serious business questions. I'm going to do a compound question again. On YouTube, Peter Anderson says, what are the pros and cons of the way you conduct interviews running a smaller production company versus your time working for the bigger company like ESPN? He says he's not looking for anything juicy or scandalous, just curious. And then kind of along the same line.
Can I answer that one before you jump in with the other one so I don't forget?
Yeah, if you have to.
The question?
Yeah.
I mean, the pros and cons of running kind of a smaller operation versus being part of a big company. I mean, it's kind of the obvious. Being part of a big company, everything's just kind of taken care of for you. With the prior roles I had working for ESPN or NBC, you can just kind of show up and not have to worry about any of the back end stuff. Whereas, with having our own show that we created the business behind, there is the obvious, financial pressure, because if you aren't doing it, who is? We, in addition to me hosting the show, are small companies, kind of the little engine that could. We handle production, post-production, so all the editing and producing, ad sales, sponsor development, and then syndication and licensing of the content. So we do everything in-house. We have a small team of 10, 12 people. Everybody wears a ton of different hats. And having said that, and while there is the financial pressure and a lot more to think about, and you kind of feel like you're always on, far and away the most satisfying work I've ever had the opportunity to do, because you're involved with every facet of building something. So it's a lot of fun, been a great learning experience too, because when I first started putting this together, all I knew how to do was conduct a half decent interview and book a guest. So really enjoyable, satisfying work, despite some of the obvious challenges.
I'm going to get to part 2 of that question, but I want to jump in here. On YouTube, one of our members, shout out there.
But by the way, do we have any Instagram questions?
We do. That was the second part of my 2-part question. Okay. So hold on. Gorjan Ninkovsky, who is one of our members. Say hi.
Hey, Gordon.
Gorjan.
What?
Gorjan. So he says, as members, full episodes will simply appear for us, right? And I know that Graham probably doesn't know the answer to this one, but I'm just going to set kind of interrupt here and tell you guys that when you are a member, all you have to do is go to the Graham Bensinger YouTube homepage, just that first landing page there, and you're going to see a playlist that says full episodes, and that's where all of the full episodes are going to be. And then, you know, as we upload new ones, you're going to see them on the membership tab as a members only. As a members only post there, and you can also search to find them. If you have someone specific that you want to see, you can search through it, or you can go through the playlist. But that's the
and I should also add too, because again, we started channel memberships based on your guys' feedback. If there's stuff that's not currently in channel memberships that you would like to see, let us know. We just launched this, work in progress. We kind of want to give you guys what you're looking for, something new. And so we would welcome your feedback. You can email that to me, graham@grahambensinger.com, or comment here as well. So again, we've launched on YouTube right now. We're going to be launching channel memberships on Facebook here soon as well.
All right. It's a good thing, you know, well worth the less than a price a cup of coffee. So this second part of the YouTube question is, second part of that question is from Instagram, and it's from, I'm going to mess this up so badly, Ma Pattersoni. Ma Patterson, that's got to be Patterson. Anyways, he asks, what kind of team do you have behind the scenes? I'm curious what it takes to pull your show off.
I mean, in short, we have an amazing team behind the scenes. They do a lot with very little resource. You know, we've, again, 10, 12 folks, but if budgets permitted, we could easily have double the number of people. So, you know, lots come from local news backgrounds, some come from production company backgrounds, but you know, everybody pretty much has the same sort of mentality and wanting to grind, wanting to put the best product possible out there. And, you know, everybody goes above and beyond, and it's, you know, not easy to find folks like that, and feel really super lucky that I have the opportunity to work with a team like that, and that they also believe enough in what we're putting out there to, you know, stick around and want to do whatever they can to make it as much of a success as well. So, you know, it admittedly took me a while as I was starting this up to realize the importance of, you know, a strong team, but it's everything. Like our ability or inability to have success is solely dependent on the buy-in and the quality of the team that you have around you, and so feel, you know, super lucky.
Over on Facebook, Eric Berard has a question about the Ice Cube interview. He says, at what point did Ice Cube go from musician to musician/businessman? The guy never seems to stop working. Did you get a read on how that transition happened?
You know, I think his, not really, other than his career evolved as he wanted it to. You know, he came from very little, worked hard to get out of his circumstance, gave a lot of credit to his parents, and music transitioned to acting, transitioned to entrepreneurship because he saw a hole in the market. It was, you know, like Kobe Bryant's final game of his career where he scored 60-ish points, that Cube realized, I'd still like to see a guy like Kobe playing, even though he's retired from the NBA. How can I make that happen? And so he saw a void in the market, started the Big Three. It initially was just retired, you know, basketball players, and has since opened up to younger players as well. So, yeah, capitalizing on a void in the market and working hard to try and make it a success. But we also talk at length about that during the taping, so you can go to YouTube and watch all the clips, or see some on Facebook, or the full episode on channel memberships.
Over on Instagram, one of the viewers asked, do you still get nervous doing interviews?
Do I still get nervous doing interviews? Sometimes. Depends on the person and the situation. I'd say rarely. However, when you're showing up at the White House, or when you're getting ready to do an extensive interview with Tom Hanks, or Richard Branson or Arnold Schwarzenegger, like these larger than life figures, you do, I'll every once in a while feel my heart starting to beat. Less during the actual interview, and more just in anticipation of who it is we're sitting down with. The one kind of exception to that is if I know there's a really sensitive topic that the person I'm interviewing would probably prefer not be covered, if I'm going to ask that anyways. And, if there's a precondition where if there's somebody, their rep has really discouraged us from asking it, generally you would only ask it if you've given the person a heads up that it's coming. But nonetheless, it's always important in those situations how you lead into the topic and your tonality, per what I mentioned earlier about Jim Brown. And so sometimes I will feel the adrenaline going into those situations, because you just don't want to botch that, because it could severely stand to impact the rest of the conversation.
Over on Facebook, Joey King asks, who was your top funniest interview that, of course, was not a comedian? Who was the most fun and maybe surprisingly funny?
That was not a comedian?
Not a pro.
I'm actually not sure who the funniest that was not a comedian. We have sat down with a number of comedians before, from celebrity stuntman Steve-O, who's also a comedian, to Judd Apatow, the director, to Larry the Cable Guy and Ray Romano. Comedians are fun. What's interesting is most of the comedians we featured have had either notable personal struggles in their life, or are much harder on themselves and much more self-conscious than almost any of the other folks that we feature for episodes, or at the very least are more open about it than other folks we featured for episodes. And that's always surprised me, because that wouldn't have been something I would have ever expected going into those conversations.
All right, we're going to take just a couple more questions. Over on YouTube, Chicago Dude 8888 and Commander Keen ask, have you ever had a bad encounter with a guest, and what was your most difficult interview?
Never had a bad encounter with a guest before, other than the couple instances I mentioned. Generally, everybody's pretty accommodating, and I'm really excited for all of the tapings. And so, every once in a while, what surrounds the taping gets a little difficult. The lead up or after the taping, is we're trying to get, footage to include with them, or, something gets canceled that was planned as part of the taping. But, generally the experiences in terms of the one-on-one interaction with me and the guest during the taping are really enjoyable. A difficult interview that comes to mind, and it's, nothing against the person. In fact, person's fascinating. I mentioned earlier Bernie Ecclestone, the former Formula One chief, but the guy that's really responsible for turning Formula One into what it is. Grew up poor, started off, I believe, as like a used car salesman, and then really created modern day Formula One. He's, I think, around 90 now, multi-billionaire, and just speaks very softly, very short, succinct stories. And he's had such a fascinating life. It was driving me crazy that for the life of me, I could not figure out how to get him to be more expansive in his answers. And he was such a nice guy, gave us all the time in the world, yet I couldn't figure out how to, present the best version of him. And that's on me, not him. And so, that it's that sort of thing that just eats me up, because we, traveled to Azerbaijan to spend time with him. And I'm like, man, this guy's giving us all this access, and I cannot figure out how to really get him going. So it's things like that that will, drive me crazy after the interviews, because it's just kind of my failures as an interviewer.
Okay, our last question is going to go to our member Gorhan. Did I say it right that time? I'm so sorry. Gorhan. He says, Graham Bensinger. It's not really a question, it's a statement, but I'm sure you can expound upon it. He says, you should interview McGregor or Poirier.
I would love to do that. We would like, really, in the UFC, we've only ever featured Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta. Dana White being UFC head, Lorenzo being the former owner of the UFC. We're actively working to feature a couple of the big name UFC stars, but I think both would certainly be interesting. You're spot on in the suggestions, and again, along those lines, we welcome the guest suggestions. So please continue to send them in. Email me, graham@grahambensinger.com. Comment here. We regularly pursue folks that you guys send in. So again, season 12 is launching this week with Ice Cube, followed by Calvin Johnson and Steve Aoki. Plus, we're actively working to book some more big names for you guys. So again, really appreciate the support. It's because of you that we continue to have the opportunity to do this. Cannot believe we're in year 12. Reminder: just launched channel memberships per your guys' feedback. So it's the one place you can go for access to our entire catalog of episodes. Plus, you have the ability there to submit questions for guests, sneak peek of upcoming content, exclusive access, etc. That's on YouTube. We're going to be launching on Facebook here soon, just sorting through some technical difficulties. Again, feel free to join there. And also, if there's anything on that front that you want us to add for channel memberships, just email or comment, because it's new. We're trying it out per your guys' feedback. Lastly, reminder: if you want to find where to watch the show on TV, grahambensinger.com. Also, a special thanks to Elisa behind the scenes. This is her final live in her second to last full-time week on the show. Is moving out of St. Louis, so transitioning jobs. And a big thank you to Elisa. An amazing couple of years as part of our team, and we're coming off a 12-month period where we've had some of the best digital numbers we've ever had, and that is thanks to her. So you're going to be sorely missed, Elisa.
Well, I'm going to miss you, Graham. And honest to goodness, please. I spend more time in the comment section of our Facebook and our YouTube channel than I do with Graham. So I'm really going to miss all of you. You guys are hilarious and poignant sometimes, and you make my day a little brighter. So keep watching, keep commenting. I really have appreciated this time.
And so, you aren't going that far away. And so hopefully we can continue to keep you involved in some capacity. Again, thank you guys so much for all of the support. We're launching season 12, got some good episodes in store. We'll continue doing these lives every month or so. And cannot believe year 12 underway. So thanks again, guys.